जय राधा माधवा कुंज बिहारी 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 जय गोपी जन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी 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 यशोदानंदन भज जन रंजन यशोदानंदन भज जन रंजन यशोदानंदन भज जन रंजन यशोदानंदन भज जन रंजन यमुना तीरावन प्यारी यमुना तीरावन प्यारी यमुना तीरावन प्यारी यमुना तीरावन प्यारी जय राधा माधवा कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधवा कुंज बिहारी हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम राम हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम राम हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Shila Prabhupada. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Shila Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. हरिनाम संकीर्तन यज्ञ की जय, जगत गुरु श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय, ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। 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 नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयामुदीरये। नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवत्युत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी। Hare Krishna. We are reading from Canto 5, Chapter 14, verse number 44. यो दुष्टजान क्षितिसुत स्वजनार्थदारान् प्रार्थयां श्रियं सुरवरैः सत्यावलोकाम्। नृपस्तदुचितं महतां मधुवीट सेवानुरक्ता मनसाम् अपवोऽपि फल्गु। यो दुष्टजान् क्षितिसुतः स्वजनार्थदारान् प्रार्थयां श्रियं सुरवरैः सत्यावलोकाम्। नैच्छन् नृपस्तदुचितं महतां मधुवीट सेवानुरक्ता मनसाम् अपवोऽपि फल्गुः। यो दुष्टजान् क्षितिसुता स्वजनार्थदारान् प्रार्थयां श्रियं सुरवरैः सद्यावलोकाम् नैच्छन् नृपस्तद् उचितं महतां मधुवेट् सेवानुरक्ता मनसाम् अभवोऽपि फल्गुः यो दुष्टजान् क्षितिसुता स्वजनार्थदारान् प्रार्थ्यां श्रियं सुरवरैः सद्यावलोकाम् नैच्छन् नृपस्तदुचितं महतां मधुवेट् सेवानुरक्ता मनसाम् अभवोऽपि फल्गुः
यो दुष्टजान् क्षितिसुता स्वजनार्थदारान् प्रार्थ्यां श्रियं सुरवरैः सद्यावलोकाम् नैच्छन् नृपस्तदुचितं महतां मधुवेट् सेवानुरक्त मनसाम् अभवोऽपि फल्गुः
यो दुष्टजान् क्षितिसुता स्वजनार्थदारान् प्रार्थ्यां श्रियं सुरवरैः सद्यावलोकान् नैच्छन् नृपस्तदुचितं महतां मधुवेट् सेवानुरक्त मनसाम् अभवोऽपि फल्गुः
Word to word meaning? Yah, who, Dustyajaan, very difficult to give up. Shiti, the earth. Suta, the children. Swajana Arthadaran, relatives, riches, and a beautiful wife. Prarthayam, desirable. Shriyam, the goddess of fortune. Suravarai, by the best of the demigods. Sadaya Avalokam, whose merciful glance. Not. Aichat, desire. Nipaha, the king. Tat Uchitam, this is quite befitting him. Mahatam, of great personalities. Mahatmas. Madhu Dvit, of Lord Krishna, who killed the demon Madhu. Seva Anurakta, attracted by the loving service. Manasam, of those whose minds. Abhava Api, even the position of liberation. Falgu, insignificant. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Jai Srila Prabhupada. Translation. Shukdev Goswami continued. My dear king, the activities of Bharat Maharaj are wonderful. He gave up everything difficult for others to give up. He gave up his kingdom, his wife and his family. His opulence was so great that even the demigods envied it. Yet he gave it up. It was quite befitting a great personality like him to be a great devotee. He could renounce everything because he was so attracted to the beauty, opulence, reputation, knowledge, strength and renunciation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna. Krishna is so attractive that one can give up all desirable things for his sake. Indeed, even liberation is considered insignificant for those whose minds are attracted to the loving service of the Lord. Purport. This verse confirms Krishna's all attractiveness. Maharaj Bharat was so attracted to Krishna that he gave up all his material possessions. Generally, materialistic people are attracted by such possessions. Ato graha kshetra sutapta vitte janasya mohoyam aham mameti. One becomes attracted to his body, home, property, children, relatives, and wealth. In this way, one increases life's illusions and thinks in terms of I and mine. The attraction for material things is certainly due to illusion. There is no value in attraction to material things, for the conditioned soul is diverted by them. One's life is successful if he is absorbed in the attraction of Krishna's strength, beauty, and pastimes, as described in the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. The Mayavadis are attracted to merging into the existence of the Lord, but Krishna is more attractive than the desire to merge. The word abhavaha means not to take birth again in this material world. A devotee doesn't care whether he is going to be reborn or not. He is simply satisfied with the Lord's service in any condition. That is real mukti. Iha yasya hare dasya karmana manasa gira nikhilasva api avasthasu jivan mukta sauchyate. One who acts to serve Krishna with his body, mind, intelligence and words is a liberated person, even within this material world. Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1-187. A person who always desires to serve Krishna is interested in ways to convince people that there is a supreme personality of Godhead. And that supreme personality of Godhead is Krishna. That is his ambition. It doesn't matter whether he is in heaven or in hell. This is called Uttam Shloka Lalasa. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guroho Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamsha Namo Vishnupadaya
Krishna Prestaya Bhutale
Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Nitinamine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashyati Deshatarine Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namane Gauratushe Namaha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha Kalpataro Bhishya Kripa Sindhu Bevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Girim Yat Kripatam Ham Vande Shri Guru Dinatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram. Hare Krishna. So we are discussing this verse from the 5th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. And we all know the background that these are the verses which Shukdev Goswami is telling Parikshit Maharaj, explaining the significance of the verses which were earlier told by Jad Bharat to Maharaj Raghugana. So now we see these two verses are very related. The verse which was previously covered, verse number 43, and this one, which describes about the qualities of a great devotee, a very pure devotee whose name was Bharat Maharaj. So here it's in the previous verse also we see a very great similarity is there. Both verses this word is used, Yo Dusta Jan. And Dustajan means something which is very, very difficult to give up. And the same thing is mentioned in the previous verse also. So previous verse also mentions all those things, Yu Dustajan, Dara, Sutan, Suhrit, Rajyam. It explains multiple things that were there which Bharat Maharaj gave up, which are very, very dear to one's heart, like Dara, wife, Sutan, children, Suhrid, Suhrid is our friends and the well-wishers, Rajyam, the kingdom that was there, and Hrithi Sprasha, basically which is very, very dear to anyone's heart. And then it was explained that why did he give up and what was the reason he gave up all these things. Uttam Shloka Larasa. Uttam Shloka means Uttam is the best and Shloka is the reputation, or who is glorified by the best prayers. So who is that Uttam Shloka? That is the Supreme Personality. And Uttam Shloka Lalasa means he was very, very fond of serving the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And for that reason, just because of that Lalasa, just because of serving the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he gave up all these things. And one more thing that was mentioned in the previous verse is Jahu Yuvaiva Malavat. Yuvaiva means in the very, very young age or in the prime of life. It was not that he gave up in the old age or he gave up when he was not very fit in his physical body, but he gave up in the prime of the age. And all these things he gave up, which was very, very difficult for an ordinary person to give up. And a comparison was also made in the previous verse that he gave up everything malavat, just like stool. So that also was beautifully explained that why this comparison is given. So generally, anyone has this experience when morning we clear our stomach and we do all these things, we feel blissful, we feel happy. And there is no pain in giving it up. Of course, if someone has loose motions or something, it's different. But in general, there is no pain in giving all these things up. But here we see that he gave up all these things. Generally, when a person, and the explanation is also given that generally when people in this world give up all these things, but they are not attached to something higher, or they do not have any lalsa or any desire for serving the Supreme Lord, then even if they artificially try to give up all these things, they feel very painful. Or it's not easy for them to give it up. And everyone remembers, even after giving it up, if someone artificially tries to renounce all these things, the remembrance will always be there. Even if they leave the house, even if they go to forest, they'll be consistently remembering these things. What is happening at my home? Who is taking care of my family? Those things will always be there. But here for Bharat Maharaj specifically, this analogy is given. Just like if we remember stool, we'll feel disgusted about it. And same was the case with Bharat Maharaj. He not only renounced everything, he not only gave up everything, but even he didn't have any kind of remembrance or regret for it. He used to feel disgusted when he remembered all the opulences, all the kingdom, everything he had. Which in general for a person is very, very difficult to give up. And that is what is explained about the nature of this. That is what is the distinctive character of Bharat Maharaj that was there. He has so much longing for the Lord, so much desire to see the Lord, so much desire to serve the Lord, that he gave up all these things just like Madhava. He was disgusted with all these things. He was not at all attracted to all these things. And he gave up all these things and decided to engage full time in the service of the Lord. And also the same thing is mentioned in this verse also, Dustajan, the same things which are very, very difficult to give up, he gave up. And there the explanation is given that Shukdev Goswami, when he was explaining this to Parikshit Maharaj, so he was so joyful that he is explaining the same thing again. The same meaning is being repeated again because he was so happy in describing the renunciation of Bharat Maharaj, or describing the great qualities of Bharat Maharaj. So he is explaining it again that he gave up all these things. And then we see the comparison that is given, that Prabhupada gives in the previous purport also. In this world, that the people who are aspiring for liberation, or the different kinds of yoga system, we know the Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Ashtanga Yoga, especially the people who are impersonalist. They also have a desire to give up everything that is material. They also want to give up sense objects, they also want to give up anything that is material, but then they don't have a higher goal. Or they just want to get attached to something impersonal, which is not at all easy. And that's why that famous verse from the Bhagavatam, Aruhya Krishnena Param Padam Tata Patanti Ada Anarutta Yushmadangraya. That even if they may practice severe austerities, they may do many kinds of penances, they may do different kinds of activities. But then and they might think that they are very great, or they have done big, they have given up all these things, or they have given up all these things that are material, but then they fall down from their positions. And as Prabhupada gives the example, they later become philanthropists or social workers or engage in all these activities. Only because their renunciation is completely different from the renunciation that is shown here by Bharat Maharaj. Was completely disgusted with all these things because he had some attachment to something higher, or he has that attachment to serving the Lord. And that's why previously also Prabhupada explains that this kind of attachment is that which is wanted. Even if someone develops little attachment from the Lord, there is no harm in this. We have so many slokas which are quoted here, like the Swalpam api asya dharmasya trayate mahato bhayat. That even if someone practices little devotional service or makes little advancement in this path, that is a permanent asset that he gets, or that asset never gets lost. For those people who are trying artificially to renounce all these things, or the jnanis who are trying different ways to renounce this world, but then there is no benefit. Ultimately, if they fall down, all their progress is lost. But in this process, nothing is lost. Even a little bit a person advances in this life, even if he is not able to complete, that is also his permanent asset that is there. Even in the Bhagavatam, we have this verse, Tattva Sudharmam Charnam Bhujem Hare, Bhajan Apakvo Tapate Tato Yadi, Yatra Kwa Vabhadram Abhudamushyakim, Kovartha Apto Bhajatam Swadharmata. There also the same thing is explained, that if a person is engaged in doing his occupational duty, he is engaged continuously in performing his occupational duty, but then if he does not worship the Supreme Lord, then even though entire lifetime he may be continuing engaging in his duty, but what is the benefit of that? And on the other hand, if a person takes to devotional service, but he is little immature, he doesn't advances, and he falls down from the path, still whatever progress he makes, whatever advancement he makes, that is a permanent asset that is there with him. And that's why this path of devotional service is the best path that is there. That even if someone is immature, someone doesn't make much advancement, whatever little bit advancement he makes, that is also a permanent asset. And again, he'll definitely come back to the path. So that is what is explained, that the difference in the position of jnani, difference in the position of people who are aspiring to give up everything material, but still they do not have such kind of renunciation, because they do not have any higher attachment that is there. And we have the example which Jad Bharat is himself giving of his own example of Maharaj Bharat, that how later he became attracted to the deer, but still whatever advancement he made was not lost. Still in the body of a deer, and then later in the body of Jad Bharat, he got a chance to continue his practice of devotional service. So now coming to this verse. So this verse also talks in the similar background. It talks about the different things which are very, very difficult to give up. Like it talks about Shiti. Shiti means, the explanation is earth, or the kingdom which Maharaj Bharat had. Suta, again children. Swajana, Artha, Dharan. Swajana is own relatives. Artha is wealth. Dharan is beautiful wife. All those things which are very, very desirable for everyone. And especially here it's given Prarthayam Shriyam Suravarahi. Shriyam is the goddess of fortune. That even the demigods are desiring the goddess, desiring the association, or desiring the goddess of fortune, desiring Lakshmi. They are also engaged in worshipping, but Bharat Maharaj, even after having all the opulence, he was not at all attached to it. It's described Bharat Maharaj had so much opulence that even the demigods were envying him. Demigods were envious of Bharat Maharaj's opulence. But here Bharat Maharaj was completely detached from all this opulence. And then this amazing word is used, that is Sadayavalokam. So there is a very amazing explanation that is given, that Bharat Maharaj was completely detached from all his wealth. Now all his followers, so this means Sadaya Valokam means, the explanation that is given is whose merciful glance. So there are two explanations given to this. One is the followers of Bharat Maharaj, they might be thinking like that Bharat Maharaj should have some mercy on the goddess of fortune, some mercy on the wealth that is there. He should not be so detached from the wealth. And that is what is given Sadayavalokam. Another explanation that is given is that the goddess of fortune or wealth should have some mercy of wealth is feeling pity on Bharat Maharaj. That why he is so renounced from me or why he is giving up my association. He should remain pampered by me, or he should remain engaged, or I will pamper him nicely. Like that the explanation is given that he should have been attached to me. So that is what is given Sadayavalokam, the meaning of this verse. So now it's given here further, Naichan Nibas Tad Uchitam Mahatam Madhudvit. This thing is quite befitting of Tad Uchitam for a great devotee like Bharat Maharaj. But this kind of renunciation is also not very great for a person like Bharat Maharaj. Why it's not very great? Because he was completely, as we already discussed, he was completely absorbed in thinking about the qualities, form, name and pastime of the Supreme Lord. Because he had that kind of higher taste that was there, so giving up all these things was not a big thing for him. It was quite befitting his personality because he had some higher attachment. And then the further explanation is given is Sevanurakta Manasam Abhavopi Falgu. That for such persons who are completely attached or who had that lalasa to serve the Supreme Lord, even the desire for liberation is insignificant for them. As we were discussing in the previous verse also, the Jnanis who are aspiring for liberation, who do so many tapasya, so many severe austerities, even Bhagavad Gita talks about that kleshodhikaras tesham avyakta sakta chetasam, that this path is very, very difficult for those, or the path of impersonalists, those who are attached to the impersonalist form of the Lord. That path is very, very difficult and very, very difficult to make advancement on that path. And there is a huge chance that even after making advancement, the person may fall down. But still, that kind of desire which people do so much just to get liberation, for a pure devotee like Bharat Maharaj, even that desire was insignificant. Or he had no desire even for getting liberation. And here the nature of a great devotee is explained. Or nature of the pure devotee is explained. That's what Prabhupada writes in the purport, that Krishna is more attractive than all these kinds of desires. Even the desire to merge into the personal form of the Lord, that is insignificant for one person who is attracted to the supreme form of the Lord, or who is attracted to serving the Supreme Lord. And that's why it's given Abhavo Api Falgu. Abhavo means the same thing, not to take birth again in this material world. Even this kind of desire that a person doesn't want to take birth in this material world, that is also insignificant for a devotee of the Lord. He doesn't have that kind of desire. This is a very high stage of devotional service which Bharat Maharaj exhibited, where he didn't have even this kind of desire to get free from this bondage of birth and death, because he was simply satisfied by serving the Supreme Lord. And purport in the purport Prabhupada, right? This verse confirms Krishna's all attractiveness. Maharaj Bharat was so attracted to Krishna that he gave up all his material possessions. So here he explains the nature of the great devotees of the Lord, how they are so attracted to the Supreme Lord that they don't have, and first of all they give up material possessions, but that is not a great thing. That is a very, very easy thing for them. That is very, very insignificant, because they don't even have the desire to get liberation from this world. They are just busy engaged in service of the Lord, just happy, engaged in service of the Lord. And we have many different examples from the Bhagavatam. We have many such examples. Another example such, we have the example of Maharaj Chitraketu. So we know that pastime where Chitraketu was engaged in going around in different planetary systems, engaged in glorifying the Supreme Lord. And then he happens to see Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva in an assembly of sages, and Parvati was sitting on his lap. And there he went on to criticize Lord Shiva. Of course, that is also explained that was not actually criticism, but he was just telling him that if you behave like this, what will others do? Others will also follow your example. But still, Mother Parvati took it as a criticism, and then she ended up cursing Chitraketu. And there also we see the nature of the great devotees of the Lord, that he was not at all affected by the curse of Mother Parvati. So the curse that was given by Parvati to Chitraketu is that you have such a nature of fault finding, you have such a kind of demonic nature, may you become a demon, or may you take birth in the family of demons. But even after getting such a curse, the response of Chitraketu Maharaj was completely different. He could have retaliated to the curse, he could have also given a curse back, he could have gotten angry, but his response was just completely different. So he says, I'll just quote it. He says, "O mother, you are now unnecessarily angry. But since all my happiness and distress are destined by my past activities, I do not plead to be excused or relieved from your curse. Although what I have said is not wrong, please let whatever you think is wrong be pardoned." This was his reaction. First of all, there was no sign of any reaction. Reaction in the sense, no sign of any retaliation, that giving the curse back. And here by his speech, we understand that in the mind also he didn't feel anything bad. Rather, even though he thought that whatever he did is not wrong, but still he begs forgiveness, he pays his obeisances to Parvati and he begs forgiveness that if you feel whatever I have done is wrong, I beg forgiveness for that. And this is the kind of nature of a great devotee who is there, who is not at all concerned. As Prabhupada writes, he is not at all concerned whether the person is in heaven, person is in hell, or even if he is about to be born in a demonic family, he is not at all affected by that. Because he is busy engaged in serving and glorifying the Lord. And even in that pastime, later Lord Shiva, when Parvati sees this kind of reaction of Chitraketu, and even Lord Shiva and all the assembled sages who were there, they see the reaction of Chitraketu Maharaj. Everyone was astonished seeing his reaction. And there also Lord Shiva glorifies the nature of devotees, glorifies the nature of pure devotees in a very amazing way. And there, after Chitraketu leaves that place, after begging forgiveness from Parvati, and everyone was surprised, there Lord Shiva also starts explaining. And it's described he mildly rebukes Parvati. He criticizes Parvati in a very, very mild way. And he says like that even though you are very, very beautiful, you are very, very great, you are very, very glorious, but then this person or the nature of the devotee, you saw the nature of the devotee who was so tolerant to your curse. Even though you exhibited your power, you cursed him, but he exhibited more power than you just by tolerating that curse. Just by not reacting to the curse, rather begging forgiveness from you, he even exhibited more glory and more beauty than you. This is the nature of those who are servant of the Supreme Lord, or who are engaged in serving the Supreme Lord, who are pure devotees of the Lord. And then he says that famous verse, Narayana parat sarve na kutashyana bibyati swarga pavarga narkeshu apitulyartha darshanam. That such pure devotees of the Lord who are Narayana para. Narayana para means completely who have no other desire. No other desire just than serving Narayana, just than serving the Supreme Lord. So Narayana para sarve na kutashyana bivyati. Such kind of devotees are not afraid of anything. They are not afraid of any kind of reversals, any kind of problems that come in the path of devotional service. They are not at all affected by that. Swarga pavarga narkeshu apitulyartha darshana. And for such devotees, all the different, be it the heavenly luxuries of the heavenly planetary systems, or be it the pains in the hellish condition of life, all those different kinds of circumstances are equal for them, or they see it in an equal way because they are only busy engaged in serving the Supreme Lord. They are only engaged, they just want to do one thing, that is serve the Supreme Lord and render pure devotional service to the Supreme Lord. And they are not affected by all these circumstances that are there. And same is the mood here we see of Bharat Maharaj also. Was completely busy in all these things, completely engaged in service of the Lord, and that's why he gave all these things just like stool. And there later Prabhupada writes, generally materialistic people are attracted by such possessions. Ato graha kshetra sutapta vitte janasya mohoyam aham mameti. One becomes attracted to his body, home, property, children, relatives and wealth. In this way, one increases life's illusion in things in terms of I and mine. The attraction for material things is certainly due to illusion. So that's what Prabhupada is explaining here, that just like this Maya, we know everyone is covered by this conditional or its energy of the Lord, or this external energy of the Lord. And that's why being under that illusion, everyone is attracted to all these expansions of the body in the form of home, children, relatives and wealth. But as soon as a person develops even little attachment from the Supreme Lord, then naturally it starts developing detachment from all these things. And naturally, the taste for all these things, or taste of enjoying all these things for his own self, that taste starts reducing because he starts developing a spiritual taste, or taste to serve the Lord. So later further Prabhupada writes, there is no value in attraction to material things, for the conditioned soul is diverted by them. One's life is successful if he is absorbed in attraction of Krishna's strength, beauty and pastimes as described in the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. So here Prabhupada writes the problem with material things. Why there is a problem in getting attracted to material things? Because a person gets diverted by it. Or here he writes a conditioned soul gets diverted by it. Of course, for a liberated soul, things are different. Even in the pastime of Chitraketu, we know that when he was going around, he was there surrounded by very, very beautiful women. He was there with the Vidyadhara women, he was growing in different planetary systems, but still he was not affected by it. But here the thing is mentioned that for a conditioned soul, he gets attached to material things and he gets diverted from the path of devotional service. For a liberated soul, he is not attached, rather he knows how to use all these material things in the service of the Lord, which we call as Yukta Vairagya, using all the material things in the service of the Lord. He doesn't get diverted, but a conditioned soul gets diverted. And further Prabhupada writes, one's life is successful if he is absorbed in attraction of Krishna's strength, beauty and pastimes. So this we already discussed, that how if a person develops positive attraction to all these different opulences of the Supreme Lord, then the person's life can be successful. And this is a natural nature in this world for a person to get attracted by the opulences. Only thing is, person in this world is in ignorance. He doesn't know about the opulences of the Supreme Lord, and that is the reason he does not get attracted to the Supreme Lord. As we were hearing in yesterday's class, Radhesham Prabhuji was mentioning why people get attracted to so many celebrities in this world. Because they have some little opulences and they are shown that as if they are possessor of all the opulences. They will act nicely, they will perform different dance scenes nicely, they'll sing also, they'll do many things. Even though they might not have all the opulences, but that's how it's displayed. That these people, they are possessor of all the opulences. And that is the natural reason a person gets attracted to them. A person wants to have association with them, wants to follow them because they have all the kinds of opulences. But the same persons, when they are given the knowledge, when they are made to understand that all these opulences are actually coming from the Supreme Lord, when they understand about the opulences of the Supreme Lord, who has all these 6 opulences in complete, then naturally their attraction will get diverted to the Supreme Lord. Because that's a natural thing that a person in this world gets attracted to someone who has these opulences. Only thing is, he is in ignorance of the opulences of the Supreme Lord. And here Prabhupada mentions about these Mayavadis or the impersonalists who are there. Even they are ignorant of the quality, form and name of the Supreme Lord, about the variegatedness of the spiritual world. And that's why they are attracted to merging into the existence of the Lord. But Krishna is more attractive than the desire to merge. So that's what we have discussed previously, that how these people, their only goal in their life is to get out of this cycle of birth and death, to get liberation and to get attached or to get merged into the impersonal form of the Lord. But for a devotee of the Lord, that is also insignificant, because they are more attracted to the Krishna's pastimes, Krishna's form, and they don't have that kind of desire. And then he says, a devotee doesn't care whether he is going to be reborn or not. He is simply satisfied with the Lord's service in any condition. So for a devotee, he is not concerned about liberation and all. Only thing he wants is how to serve the Lord, or how I can be engaged in the Lord's service. And his mood in any kind of circumstances is that he tolerates all those circumstances. Whatever reverses come in his life, he just tolerates them, and continuously he is engaged in devotional service. This is what we see in the pastime of Chitraketu Maharaj, and even in the pastime of Jad Bharat. So many different things happen in his life, how his brothers were exploiting him, then later the dacoits tried to kill him. But in all the circumstances, he was busily engaged in thinking, meditating about the Supreme Lord. He was not at all affected by any kind of reverses. And we have the famous shloka from the Bhagavatam which talks about this, the nature of the devotee, that is, Tattenukampam susamekshamano bhunjanevatma kritam vipakam Hridvagvapurvir namaste Jive tayo mukti pade sadaya bhag. So this verse talks about the nature of a great devotee and how we previously discussed in the form of an acronym GREAT. That 5 things this verse talks about. First is Tatte Nukampam Sosamakshamano. That one who earnestly waits for the Lord to bestow his mercy upon him. Anukampa, or the mercy of the Lord. And he is grateful to that. So G stands for gratitude. He is grateful for even for the suffering that comes in a devotee life, he feels grateful. He feels that this is also a mercy of the Lord that I am getting this suffering so that my anarthas will get destroyed. And we have the great example in Bhagavatam itself of Parikshit Maharaj. That when he was informed by some followers of the Brahmana that you have been cursed and you have just 7 days to live, so he was very, very happy. He was very, very grateful to the Supreme Lord that now finally I have got this chance to give up everything and just completely being engaged in your devotional service. So that is the gratitude a devotee expresses. Whatever things come in his life, he takes it as a mercy of the Lord. And he becomes more and more grateful to the Lord. And he continuously, enthusiastically waits for the Lord's mercy, waits for the Lord's mercy to be bestowed upon him. And then it's mentioned, Gunjan evatma kritam vipakam. All the while patiently suffering the reactions of his past misdeeds. So whatever reactions come, whatever problems come in life, he accepts all this. So in that acronym that is there, A stands for acceptance. He accepts all the sufferings that are coming in his life, and he doesn't blame anyone else. He doesn't put the blame on anyone else, rather he thinks this is my own past fruitive activities. I am suffering due to my own past karma, and he happily accepts that. And rather that also he thinks the mercy of the Lord that I was destined to suffer much more. That much more suffering was actually destined for me, but it's the mercy of the Lord that I am getting a token suffering. So this is the mood of a devotee, the mood of acceptance and the mood of tolerance. That is, T stands for tolerance. He tolerates all the suffering and he is not at all affected by those sufferings. He doesn't get affected, he doesn't get swayed from the devotional service. And finally, the third line says, Hridva Vapurvir Vidadan Namaste. That even in all these circumstances, even in all these problems, all these reverses that come in his life, he is just engaged in one activity. Hridva Vapurvir. By his heart, by his mind, by his body, by his words, by his intelligence, by all these things, he is just engaged in respectfully offering obeisances to the Supreme Lord. Respectfully serving the Supreme Lord, busy in his service to the Supreme Lord and very, very enthusiastically serving the Supreme Lord. So in that acronym, R stands for respect and E stands for enthusiasm. So even when so many reverses come in his life, so many problems come in his life, he is engaged, he is just continuously engaged in serving the Supreme Lord and he is not at all affected. And then final line in this verse is, Jive tayo mukti pade sadaya bhag. That for such a person, liberation, just like for a son, the father's property, naturally the son will inherit the property of the father. Similarly, for such a person, naturally the Lord will bestow his mercy upon him or he'll get the highest destination. If he has this kind of mood or if he continuously is engaged in the service of the Lord. And this is what Prabhupada writes in this purport as well, that a devotee doesn't care whether he is going to be reborn or not. He is simply satisfied with the Lord's service in any condition. That is real mukti. And finally he says, Iha yasse hare dasya karmana manasa gira nikhilaspu api avasthasu jivan muktasa muchyate. That in any condition of life, any problem of life, devotee has just one business. That is to serve the Supreme Lord by all the different senses, by his body, by his mind, by his words, by his intelligence. Physically serving the Supreme Lord by his words glorifying the Supreme Lord, by his intelligence engaging in offering praise to the Supreme Lord, utilizing his mind to contemplate on different activities of the Supreme Lord. This is how a devotee is constantly busy in serving the Supreme Lord. And such a person who is constantly busy with all these things, such a person is considered to be liberated even though he is in the material world. If he is constantly engaged in offering service to the Supreme Lord through all his different things that are there, then he is considered to be a liberated person. And finally, Prabhupada mentions, so we already discussed that a person should be attached to the service of the Supreme Lord. And here Prabhupada gives us a bona fide service also. So in the last line he says, a person who always desires to serve Krishna is interested in ways to convince people that there is a Supreme Personality of Godhead and the Supreme Personality of Godhead is Krishna. That is his ambition. It doesn't matter whether he is in heaven or in hell. This is called Uttam Shloka Lalasa. So we're discussing throughout the class about Uttam Shloka Lalasa, or for being fond of serving the Supreme Lord. And here Prabhupada in the purport itself he writes a bona fide service that what a devotee should be engaged in. So many times this question is asked that what is the bona fide service for me, or what service I need some personal instructions. So here Prabhupada gives a personal instruction for everyone, and that is the person who is engaged or who wants to serve the Supreme Lord, he should always contemplate that how to convince more and more people, how to convince about the existence of the Supreme Lord, that there is a Supreme Lord, there is a Supreme Controller who exists, and then about the identity of the Supreme Lord. That who is the Supreme Lord, or what is the identity, that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is Sri Krishna. So this way a person who is always engaged in serving the Supreme Lord in the parampara, according to the instructions of the acharyas, contemplating on how he can spread this message of Krishna consciousness, how he can convince more and more people about this Supreme Personality of Godhead, then such a person, as Prabhupada or as the shloka says, such a person who continuously engages his body, mind, words and intelligence in these aspects, then he is a liberated person even within the material world. Even though he is in the material condition, such a person can be considered liberated person. So this way, in this entire verse, Shukdev Goswami is describing to Parikshit Maharaj about the nature of the great devotees, basically the example of Bharat Maharaj. And here in the explanation, it's also given that even Shukdev Goswami was very, very happy about in describing this renunciation or these activities of Bharat Maharaj. And that's why he's repeating these two verses, explaining the same things, explaining the great renunciation of Bharat Maharaj and also his attachment to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Also his attachment to serving the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And in the purport, Prabhupada also talks about how we can develop that attachment, we can develop that kind of spirit to serve the Supreme Lord by consistently contemplating or engaging our body, minds and words in thinking how to convince others, or in planning how to convince others also about the existence of Supreme Lord and the identity of the Supreme Lord. So with this I would like to pause here. Thanks. Any questions or comments?
Thank you for the nice class. Throughout the class, you had one theme that if one is attracted to Lord's opulence, then naturally you get detached from the material opulence. And this is something that we brahmacharis have to think about, because if we don't get attracted by Lord's opulence, Maya is very, very attractive. Very attractive. So we have to meditate or listen and read more about Lord's opulence so that we can get attracted to Him. Hare Krishna.
Krishna is more attractive than all other material desires and desire for liberation. And real mukti is like if a devotee doesn't care whether he's going to be reborn or not, he's simply satisfied with the service of the Lord. Any kind of
nature of purity that not aspire for liberation, and then and that attacks to the Lord. They're never afraid of anything, not affected by any circumstances. They tolerate all sufferings and they think that Krishna's mercy, and they become grateful to the Lord. And they will be always busy continuously serving Krishna. And person's life is successful when he is attracted to the Krishna's opulence, strength, well-being, knowledge, realization, beauty.
Krishna. We are not attracted to Krishna because we do not know the actual opulence of the Supreme Lord. So, if you know that the main reason is that it is coming from Krishna, so we become attracted to the Supreme Lord. And a devotee never care for anything, only his mood is to serve the Supreme Lord. And one life is successful if we observe in the attraction of Krishna's strength, beauty, and pastime.
Very simple. Thank you for the experience. You told so many nice words. That you told the nature of pure devotee, that he attracted to serve Supreme Lord. Everything else is insignificant for him, and in material position or liberation also. And a devotee only, devotees should be only concerned how to serve Lord always, not wasting time.
As only spoke, like, one have the higher taste or attraction, then automatically or naturally he lose the taste in this material opulences. And if we one falsely renounces, then he still has some remembrance and modern getting on. The second thing is the tolerance and accepting one mistake to talk about Ajay Maharaj also. So that these two qualities attracts everyone else. This natural that is tolerance. Yeah, Krishna Prabhuji, you nicely explained the difference between the pathways of personalist and impersonalist. Impersonalist, their path is very, very difficult because it's not that there is something attractive and they naturally get attracted to something and they have to forcefully give up these material things. Whereas for devotees, the Lord's quality in itself is so much attractive that he can easily give up all those material things because he has already got a higher taste. As Bharat Maharaj, he gave up all those things like giving up stool. This was very nice and well.
Thank you for the nice class. So nicely emphasize the point of non-local arts. So if anyone has a desire to serve the Lord, so you can easily renounce the material things which is there. And you very nicely quoted this great example. So there is a natural attraction for people. Whoever is great, the opulence is natural for the person. So in the celebrities, they have one thing, they don't have. So in movies, they should cover up and people should attract. But the real face is different. But actually, all the opulences are there in Krishna, is the source. So when a person is attracted to the opulence of Krishna, then no need to get any attraction near Krishna. And very nicely mentioned, emphasize the point of tolerance. There were various examples, and nicely got the acronym great. So that then composition. So if a devotee is desirous to attain the Lord, automatically all this he can solve. He find the Lord.
Nantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai.